Thanks so much, Lucinda. Good afternoon. I'm Allison Murphy, COO of Axios. A big thank you to Cooley for making today's event possible. Joining me now is Ben Beerle, partner at Cooley. Hi, Ben. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Allison. Great to be here. Nice to talk to you.
Let's jump right in because we have plenty to talk about. Let's start big picture. 2025 seemed like a comeback year for deals. What stood out, and can the momentum carry into 2026?
Question. And M&A is certainly back in a big way. And I think one of the leading indicators is I've been sick since November and can't seem to get healthy. And I think that's because of the level of busyness we've all been seeing. I would say 2024 was really about planning, and early 25 was all about planning. I think we spent a lot of time with our clients talking about how to roll out M&A strategy. And really, since the back half of 25, it's all about execution. And we've been really busy in the trenches just doing the deals that people have been kind of waiting to get rolled out. Big moves in the billion-dollar plus category of deals. I think that just shows the level of confidence people have in the market. I think we're about 20 to 25% up year over year on billion-dollar plus deals, which is great for people like us who do love doing the kind of like larger transactions that are transformative. And with the macro economy kind of staying steady, we're expecting that trend to continue into 2026.
25%, that is not a small increase rate. Let's double click on that and talk about tech deals specifically and thinking about AI. Is this current AI gold rush we're seeing, is it going to be a durable driver of M&A, or is this really the next bubble?
Yeah, I think in the near term, the answer to that question almost doesn't really matter because I think 2026 is going to be big in AI, kind of regardless of what the long-term trajectory might look like. It's just on everyone's bingo card is either to build an AI solution or to buy an AI solution. And I think it's that buy component that's going to be keeping us busy here in the near term. Longer term, a little bit tough to tell. It could kind of break one of two ways. The first is it looks a little bit like cybersecurity and just becomes a big part of the ecosystem and is a separate segment of the market, if you will, that folks are going to continue to spend a lot of time both identifying and executing on. And if it doesn't break that way, and maybe it becomes a little bit more like the Internet of Things, as people might remember from a few years ago, where it was a oft-touted solution, but never really gained the traction as an independent vertical, and was really subsumed more into the broader tech ecosystem. But I think too early to tell what the long-term plan or trajectory is for AI. But in the near term, like I said, it's going to be very much a part of the M&A landscape for the foreseeable future.
Of course, one of the other factors can be regulation. So, where does antitrust land in 2026 for big tech and for biotech? Are mega deals really going to be able to come back?
Yeah, I think the one word answer on antitrust is just confidence, which is great for people like me who do deals day in and day out. Is people just feel better knowing what types of deals will get scrutinized and will be subject to additional regulatory review and which ones are more likely to get done more quickly. The last administration was trying a bunch of different theories and different ways of looking at matters, and that caused people to not know going into deals, is my deal going to get an additional level of scrutiny? Or can I just plan that this is going to be a plain vanilla type review that we can have a good line of sight to closing? So I think with that level of confidence, both here in the US and abroad, is really helping people feel confident to take bigger bets on transactions because they feel like they know the likelihood of approval. We're also seeing antitrust show up as a strategic differentiator in transactions, as you might have seen in the Metsera Pfizer transaction. Pfizer's ability to get that deal through the regulators in a quick manner really helped it make sure it was able to succeed in what could have turned into a longer, protracted, hostile transaction. And we're seeing it, just today with the news on the Warner Brothers transaction and Paramount saying that they think they have a better, faster path to closing than Netflix might have. And I think all of that is just more fodder for parties and transactions to talk about how successful they may or may not be relative to others. And so it's not just the dollars on the table, but it's also how successful are you going to be able to close that deal so those dollars ultimately can get delivered to the stockholders.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue into our last question today, which is if we're thinking then about who's going to have the upper hand, you mentioned some of the things that can make a difference. But if we're talking 2026, who has the upper hand, corporates or sponsors?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the answer might actually be sellers might have the upper hand for once. We've been in a very robust but pro-buyer market for a long time, and that's really meant that buyers have been able to kind of push their weight around and get the kinds of terms that they look for in transactions. But now we see that both sponsors and strategics are back in the market in a big way. Strategics I think have been seen sponsors gobbling up a lot of the assets that they were looking at, and that sense of FOMO of needing to be active in the market has really kicked in. And as a result, in a lot of the auctions that I've been working on, we're seeing not just sponsor interest, but also strategic interest. And as a seller, that just means more opportunities to play parties off against each other and get better terms. So it may be a turning of the coin here, where into 2026 we start to see more seller favorable terms, and that would be a great result, I think. Regardless, an active market is good for all of us. I think it shows confidence and it shows that we'll all be busy well into 2026.
For sure. And thank you for all of that insight. We are definitely here at the end of the year, and all of the predictive power and knowledge you have helps us figure out 2026. So thanks so much, Ben, for joining Axios. Really appreciate you spending time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Nice to talk to you.